On May the 30th, 1993, a weekend adventure to the caves of Kentucky's Cave City took a tragic turn for 29-year-old William J. Coughlin. Accompanied by his friends James Jakala and Kevin Feeley, William's day began with a yearn to explore. However, an off-the-cuff decision to explore one of the more challenging routes available at the Buzzard Roost Cave would ultimately lead him into an unimaginable situation, one that would test his endurance and leave him fatally trapped deep within the cave's winding passages. So how did a simple day of adventure turn into such a horrific ordeal? Let's talk about it. This is the death of William J. Coughlin. William Coughlin was an athletic, adventurous young man, standing at 6 feet tall and weighing over 200 pounds. His love for the outdoors and exploration drew him and his two friends, James Jakala and Kevin Feeley, to Cave City, Kentucky on May the 30th, 1993. On that day, they arrived at Buzzard Roost Cave, an extensive cave system with routes suited for both beginner and advanced explorers. Though none of the group had prior experience with caving, they eagerly took on the historic tour, an accessible route showcasing the cave's natural beauty. After completing the less challenging tour, Coughlin and Jakala decided to take their adventure a step further by joining the Wild Cave tour that afternoon. This more intense exploration involved crawling, climbing, and manoeuvring through narrow passages that would be difficult for even experienced cavers. Although they signed a liability waiver acknowledging the potential dangers, none of them fully realised the risks they were about to face in the cave's unforgiving depths. The decision to embark on this tour, made in the spirit of adventure, ultimately had tragic consequences for William. The Buzzard Roost Cave in Cave City, Kentucky is part of a larger network of caves in the area, known for their complex, steep drops and narrow passages. The cave's natural beauty and challenging terrain attract both seasoned and novice explorers alike. However, it was notoriously dangerous, especially for those without significant caving experience. The cave's narrow tunnels, sharp rocks, and vertical descents made it a perilous environment for those unfamiliar with caving. The Wild Cave Tour was advertised as an experience for the more daring visitor, requiring participants to squeeze, crawl, and climb through unimproved sections of the cave. Though captivating, this tour was physically demanding and involved navigating rope ladders in narrow passageways that were only meant for people with experience. Despite these warnings about the cave's difficulty, Coughlin and Jakala decided to participate anyway. Whilst many cave tours are supervised, with detailed safety protocols and guides available for less experienced visitors, tours labelled as wild or advanced often cater to those seeking challenging and physical adventure. Though popular, operators generally advise caution and emphasise the physical demands that these type of expeditions require before entering. The group, led by guide David Harding, began the Wild Cave Tour. However, trouble quickly arose. Coughlin, due to his larger frame, which as a reminder was 200 pounds and being 6 feet tall, struggled in the tight passages from the offset. He got stuck several times as the group moved deeper and deeper into the cave, but he was eventually able to continue with some effort. The turning point occurred when Coughlin reached a particularly difficult section of the cave, involving a second, shorter rope ladder which hung uneven against the rocks. A few moments earlier, tour guide David Harding had left the cave to go and take a phone call, which left the group unsupervised. Twice, Coughlin attempted to climb the ladder, but failed. On his third attempt, disaster struck. Coughlin lost his grip, slipped, and fell several feet, hitting his head on a protruding rock. He sustained a severe head injury, which caused significant bleeding, and he began to slip in and out of consciousness. In an attempt to crawl to safety, Coughlin became wedged in a narrow rock formation. His body was twisted in such a way that one arm was trapped behind his back and the other against his stomach. Unable to free himself and with his injuries worsening, he remained trapped in this position for hours. After realising what happened, his friend went to get help, and when he sought David Harding's assistance, David returned to the cave without any medical supplies and had not alerted medical personnel or rescue services. Attempts to exit the cave were unsuccessful, and in the confined passageway, Coughlin became further trapped, leading to a prolonged 7-hour ordeal. Once David realised that he could not get him out, emergency services were rung. Due to the position he was in, Coughlin struggled to breathe, ultimately succumbing to what would later be identified as positional asphyxia. Despite rescue team efforts, he died of his injuries in the cave and could not be taken out of the cave until the next day. Jim Birch, coordinator of the Bowling Green Warren County District Disaster and Emergency Services, said that there were over 200 people at the scene trying to save him. These included experienced cavers, police, paramedics, and volunteers. After realising that there was no hope of seeing their friend alive again, his friend James Jakala claimed that the drive home after the ordeal was awful. 8 hours of silence, knowing their friend had not made it. Coughlin's death sent shockwaves through his family and the caving community. His parents filed a lawsuit against TMH International Attractions, the operators of Buzzard Roost Cave. They claimed negligence. They argued that the tour operators had not adequately prepared the participants for the dangers of the cave, nor had they provided sufficient safety measures. The guide, David Harding, also came under scrutiny for leaving the group for an extended period and failing to summon medical help promptly. The court case, Coughlin vs TMH International Attractions, centred around the waiver that Coughlin had signed before embarking on the tour. The defendants argued that Coughlin had accepted the risks involved in the activity by signing the waiver. However, the court found that the waiver was not valid under Kentucky law because Coughlin and the other participants were not on equal footing with the cave operators. As an inexperienced caver, Coughlin had relied on the tour guide and operators for his safety. They had failed to protect him. The court ruled that Coughlin had not properly been informed of the specific risks he would face, and thus, the waiver was not enforceable. The legal outcome of this case highlighted broader issues surrounding commercial caving and the liability waivers in Kentucky. The court emphasised the importance of public safety and found that the operators of Buzzard Roost Cave had a duty to ensure the safety of their guests, even in high-risk activity like cave exploration. This case set a precedent for how liability waivers would be interpreted in cases involving recreational activities where participants might not fully understand the risks involved. The legal outcome of this case, following his death, led to significant repercussions for TMH International Attractions. Whilst the specifics of the financial settlement remain unclear, it was reported that the operators were held liable for their negligence in the circumstances leading to his death. This ruling highlighted the court's stance on ensuring safety in adventure tourism, emphasising that waivers cannot protect operators from liability in cases of gross negligence. The case ultimately contributed to the discussions on the responsibilities of cave operators, changing the landscape in general. But sadly, this case never really saw the light of day, so I hope this could bring some attention to it. May he rest in peace. As always, this is not an AI channel, I do everything myself, and if you appreciate my work, subscribe, and if you want to go the extra step to support the channel, maybe consider becoming a member. Happy Halloween. I am absolutely full of a cold, so I hope yours is going a little bit better than mine. As always, thank you for watching.